10-6 Life Factors welcome Ian Dunkley. Ian is a businessman living in Middlesex County, Manchester, Jamaica. He is a sports enthusiast. Ian believes in service and community, and he also is an avid Christian. Now, welcome to 10-6 Life Factors, Ian. I want you to kind of expand on what it means in terms of you being a sports enthusiast and what it means to you being a Christian. Thank you for coming.
Oh, you're welcome. It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure to be here today to share with you and others all about myself and all that makes me happy and how I can help others through my life experiences growing up. And well, for me personally, because how I grew up, it was just this natural part of me to always wanting to help people. I always liked the idea of seeing people beside me, not behind me. I people always say I'm a born leader, so I walk beside people. I'm not the leader that walks in front of people, you know, because sometimes when you walk in front of people, they're falling behind and you're not even aware that they're falling behind. But when you're walking beside me, I'm walking beside you, anything happens to you, I am aware, and what affects you will affect me also. And so growing up in life, that has always been a mantra of mine, helping people, community service. For me, community service is not only the one in where I live, but the world itself is my community. And I always like helping people. As a Christian also, it gives me a greater level of responsibility because as Christians, we're supposed to be our brother's keeper. We're supposed to be helping each other. If it's something that you that weren't a part of you, but once you enter Christendom, you're automatically supposed to be adapting that principle because that's what Christians are for. Christians is not about only about who can speak in tongues and who can dress the most and who goes to the best church. Christianity is being our brother's keeper, being a service to others, right? Because that's what Jesus said we ought to do. Okay, so it's just natural. It's just me being a sport enthusiast, an avid Christian, a community person. Everything just comes into one because the one doesn't go without the other. Because as a sport enthusiast, there are certain sports that I really love to the core, like motor racing, cricket, and football. But there are some other sports that spurs a moment of joy within me, that captivates the mind. You know, I can use it as a way to relax or to de-stress myself. So sports in general, I love it. Basketball, netball, every kind of sports. Some I may see it for the first time and I'm excited about it because it kind of activates the mind, expand the mind to think on something else. You know, it's a de-stressing mechanism. I don't know how other people use it, but for me personally, it's a de-stressing mechanism for me, and I just love sports.
Okay, so you've said a lot, and I appreciate that. So um, you know, just your platform is built on service, community, being involved in sport, as you said, working with people, not that they're walking behind you, but they're walking beside you. And we're gonna get deeper into that when I ask you a few more questions. What exactly, though, when you said, give me in terms of action, what type of service actions have you been involved in terms of your community? When you say you like to help people, you like to give back, and just focus on that particular aspect of
All
service.
right,
What exactly
all
have you
right.
done so far in your, say, Manchester, the Manchester parish, for example, or in your local community?
In my local community, growing up as a much younger person, I was very much involved in the development of the community. I was a member, very active member of the community club. I was once the president. I was once the public relation officer. I did the role as secretary. I was just a regular member and being active equally the same. Sometimes you couldn't tell that I'm not an executive member of the club. Outside of the local community, I was also a member of the Manchester Lions Club. That's a civic club, right? I was also a member there. I was also a member of the Mandeville Toastmasters Club. So everything. I was also a member of the Social Development Commission clubs. I was also a member of the Manchester Football Association. So every possible opportunity I get to be involved with something that has to do with service, I always seek to be a part of it. And that's even why I when I read about this, I said, right, I just want to be a part of this, because anything where I can share my experience and my ideas, I always like to be there. I tell you what, everywhere I go and I get the opportunity of talking to persons, sometimes persons always ask me, are you a counselor? Because you're always motivating, you're always telling us things that makes us happy, makes us feel good, makes us think different. And it's like I said earlier, it's just naturally me. I will go out of my way to assist persons, to make sure
So,
that
right. So you mentioned a lot about there's so many in terms of membership activities, club activities that is associated, it seems, with not just private but government, it appears,
yes, yes,
that have been implemented or instituted in your community. And
yes.
so can you talk a little then about um what type of outreach those kind of um, participation garner in terms of getting other young people involved, and what has been the outcome? Meaning, is it that um, these activities have actually make a difference in young people's lives and you can actually see it? And is it garner a continuation of these participation in order to develop community?
Interestingly, and it's very unfortunate because some things that happen, because while growing up as a much more younger person, it was a joy to be involved in community service. It was a joy to be a member of a community club, because there were so many benefits. One of the biggest benefits was that you were able to travel to other areas that under normal circumstances you would never get to go. You'd go to other parishes, you'd get to meet other persons, and all of that under normal circumstances you would have never gotten that opportunity. But the saddest part of it is that as time goes by, it instead of it increases, it decreases.
Hmm.
For some strange reason, it just decreases. There's less enthusiasm from the youths growing up to be members of service clubs. And to me, one of the reasons for that is the sort of environment that society creates. It's not one that involves participation. It comes like a status quo. Because you are not of this particular status, then we don't see
Hmm.
you, we don't recognize you. So the youths growing up start to become so and feeling so detached. So even if in the beginning they had this desire of community service, of, of being a part of some service group or community clubs, once they started to feel detached, then the detachment starts to grow, get wider and wider, and then their kids coming along sees no form of attachment, and they started to get so detached. And there is no desire to change that concept from the persons who supposed to. But at the end of the day, we have ourselves to blame. We allowed it
So
to
let
get
me
to that level.
expand on that, because that's actually a critical piece of information that you just shared. You're saying, so you would agree then there's a generational shift in
Yes,
the
yes, definitely.
interest and involvement and participation of
Yes,
community engagement, basically
yes,
activities and all those
yes.
kind of stuff. And
Mhm,
you're saying these youth, in terms of the generation that, current generation, I guess, that you're talking about,
mhm, mhm.
are showing a sense of detachment. And you're about
Yes.
to say you feel some kind of blame, or take on some blame or some responsibility. And that would be my question. What is it
Mhm,
then that, even if it's government that are instituting, like the parish council that are instituting youth
mhm,
clubs, and even the church, because you said you're an avid member, a
mhm.
Christian that is a member of a church, where does the responsibility lies with them to kind of, do some more outreach, create more um, activities that are more youth friendly based on the generation and this cohort, because we see social media is a big thing now. Where is that responsibilities lie versus placing it on the youth and the parents? As you said, it's like a cycle now that is happening.
I found myself asking myself a question this morning, right? If you have a pipe that is leaking and it's causing a mess, right? What do you do? Do you clean the mess, then fix the pipe, or do you fix the pipe and then clean the mess? You
Okay,
got it?
I got it, and
So,
that is such a brain tease. That's an excellent question.
so,
Let's expand
so
on
that
that.
is
Let me hear it.
so that is the situation we're finding ourselves in today, right? We're facing a situation where we are seeing this great detachment in society, right? So we're trying to fix the detachment, but we're not trying to fix first what is causing the detachment. You get what I mean?
Yes.
So here we are so preoccupied and so worried about all the youths, they're so detached and we're worried about them and all of that. But what is it that is causing the detachment? We need to take great analytical assessment. We have to listen. The truth is, we have to be honest to ourselves as individuals. Every individual has to be honest to themselves first before you try to be honest to anybody else.
So what would be that question then to bring about that honesty?
You will have to ask yourself, what am I doing that is contributing to that detachment? One,
So
what can I?
wait a second. Because we're talking, say we're talking a group of cohort. The population that I'm trying to serve is in, the adolescent youth. Do you think they'll be able to answer that question honestly?
That's another question. Like I
And
said,
and
you
do you think then the adults, because you talk about the parents and you articulate that very well. And do you think the parents themselves would be able to even help the youth make sense of that detachment?
yes, they need to be honest to themselves first. You don't expect the youths to be honest to themselves first. You, the parent, needs to be honest to yourself first. But the challenge in that is that it's the same youth you are talking to who is the parent.
Huh. Children having children?
Exactly. Exactly. Look at a child, look at a female, 25 years old. How many kids she got? Two, three. There's a phase that she has not even entered that phase yet. Because between that age of 18 and 30, it's a whole difficult phase that. And you have not entered that phase yet. Are you going 3 kids?
Ian, you're onto something here, man. I wonder how you're tucked away in Manchester and nobody's utilizing you. I saw the moment I saw, you know, and to be honest with you, I saw your post for the first time, some of the things that you said on Twitter, and the moment I saw that one about cleaning up the mess, and I'm like, is anybody seen this?
No,
I said, is
because
anybody
that's what
seen
I'm saying.
this?
That's why I said you have to be honest to yourself first.
Yeah.
You as an individual, I have to be honest to myself first before I try to be honest to you.
Let's look at role
Now,
of government. Let's look at role because yes, children having children that those stages of development as you talk about between 18 and 30, there's so much self-reflection and on
yeah.
self identity and understanding that must be
Mm.
before and we're saying this and I'm in agreement with you. However, there's a lot of people who will likely disagree with us, but let's not go in
Yeah,
that.
that's fine. That's fine.
Let's
That's
not go
fine.
in there yet. Let's look at role of community leaders. What are they doing?
Okay. Community leaders, who are they? And they, how did they get to that level to be community leader? You know, you know that leaders has to be born. You cannot create a leader. And too many times we chose to do that because of status quo. We chose this one because, when I was going to school, I always like to talk. So they said to me one day, Ian, why don't you be a lawyer? So I said to them, if everybody be the lawyer, who is the thief?
Yeah.
You get what I mean?
Yes.
So not because I talk a lot means that it fits a lawyer. So when we choose leaders, we have to be careful of how we choose leaders. Like I said, leaders has to be born. You cannot train or create a leader because
So
leadership comes from,
you're feeling
it
that
comes from,
leadership is an innate quality that is
yes,
derived. It is derived. And this thing where and that's a very good analogy that you use. This thing where, oh, because this person talks so much or talks so well or articulates so well, oh, you must, you have they just fit you into that category of being a lawyer, as you said. Not
All right,
looking
watch this.
not looking at the other the skills and the ability and the capabilities that is required to actually execute that role, right?
Exactly. All right, watch this. A carpenter is doing some work. He needs two type of nails. He needs a concrete nail and he needs a wire nail. Now, watch this. The concrete nail can do the job that the wire nail does, but the wire nail cannot do the job that the concrete nail does.
Okay.
Okay, so a leader is able to, not to say, boy, I can't do this, I can't do that. A leader said, we, us. A leader doesn't say I or you. A leader, a lead, a leader leads. So when we're saying we're choosing a leader, we want you to be the community leader. Does that person actually portray the portrait of a leader? Leaders are those who are willing to make sacrifice for others, not necessarily for themselves.
Let's, for the layman and for us, for viewers, then make the connection between that nail analogy for us in terms of leadership and all the other things that you talk about. Make that connection for me.
Okay, the wire nail is one who speaks well, very articulate. Very articulate. He will speak from now until next week and speak properly and all that. But yet still, he cannot inspire the next person beside him.
Okay.
The concrete nail doesn't speak well. He will speak for half an hour, but yet still his half an hour is very effective.
So who are we not recognizing here?
We're not recognizing the concrete hill.
So how do we get more community participation then? What if, say, for example, you are in that leadership role because you have this insight or in view of this of what's missing, what's needed, and possibly what can be done. How do we kind of garner a support to, so we have to start with the youth, we have to start with the parents, community leaders, we have to get business people involved, because when you're talking about community cooperation or community organizational approach, everybody within the parameters of that community should be utilized. And then if some is missing, then you start looking at externally for other help. So what does that look like in getting everybody on board to have this sense of togetherness and make an integration and an empowerment for a better community?
All right, watch it. We have this problem where once we choose a leader, we said, yes, that's it. Your job is to lead. So we expect you to wave a magic wand and everything is being done. We don't realize that we have equal responsibility. The only difference between you and I is because you are the leader.
Is the leader asking for, but wait, Ian, is that leader asking for help, or the leader fall within the mindset that he's the leader?
All right, let me show you something. Do your hand like this for me. Just put up your hand. Okay, that's 5 fingers, right? Show me a fist. What a fist look like. Okay, just look at it. Just look at it. You look at it. Right, like this. Is this a fist?
No. What are you showing me? No.
Is this a fist?
No.
Is this one?
No.
Is this one?
Yes.
Do we have one now?
Yeah.
Okay. So it tells you, even though this is the leader, it takes everybody to come together to make the job effective. All right?
Yeah.
Watch it. Watch this thumb. It touches everybody. It touches everybody. Or if you want to put the thumb and everybody covers the leader. So it's a supporting role. So if you say to
clarify something. Clarify something. You said, when I said to you, does the leader wants the help? And you said something about, no. Are you saying the leader is not looking for help? He doesn't recognize that he needs the help?
No, we don't wait on the leader to ask for help. We see the need to help the leader. All right, watch this. From a biblical perspective, okay? Moses was chosen as the leader to lead the people out of Egypt, okay? Right?
That's a story.
But did they support Moses?
From the story, they defy him at first, right?
Exactly. So his leadership, and because of them, when Moses was given the instruction to struck the rock, because Moses didn't have their support in obedience, and they were pressuring him, do this and do that, and do it, because him and the leader, and what have you. And he ended up had to hit the rock in ignorance. They caused him to lose his way.
All right, wait a second, because we don't want to take it for granted that anybody, because you understand that story. Remember that we live in such a diverse world where the Bible is just another book, and people don't open it to that story. So wait a second, let me talk about that. So far, what you're sharing is that community support is needed in order for this togetherness, sense of belonging among youth and parents and leaders and so on. But you're emphasizing that a leader is not simply developed. A leader is born, and in order to have those leadership qualities, it is something that is occurred through. It could be biological, and it can. Actually believe that it can also be nurtured, but that's a different story. However, that's another piece, a rabbit hole, I guess I should say. However, it appears as if you're saying that individuals, and this agent to the individual, should have this sense of understanding about them to know that the leader need help, that
Exactly.
the leader should not have to ask for the help, because you use the hand, the fingers, and the fist analogy. But then it goes back to your point, which probably needs some clarity, to the individuals who are detached because they themselves is not even sure why they're detached. So why are it appears to me then we should be seeking leaders, or seeking out leaders who have the knack and the ability to recognize when there's no consensus, and to be able to advocate to garner that consensus, even when the individuals would be willing, but they don't know how, without you saying that the individual should take the initiative, because a lot of people do not have that initiative. So
Exactly.
can you expand on that? Because it seems as if you're placing a lot of responsibilities on individuals versus the leader.
Okay. If, like I said earlier, we have this expectation that a leader, once we chose a leader, we just sit back and with our hands full like this, and he does all the work without our support. Remember, when it is one doing the work, it is difficult. It can be difficult. But when we have everybody coming together, it makes the work lighter. Okay? Now, not because I chose you the leader, it doesn't mean that I must not have this sense of responsibility that I know that I need to support my leader in whatever way that I can. Now, when you are leading and you know you have the full support of those that you are leading, it only makes the job lighter.
Okay.
You understand? When you know that even somebody will call you and say, Doc, are you okay? How is things going on? Do you need, I think we can do this. I think we can do that. And somebody is calling and said, Doc, I'm passing by and I have nothing to do. Would you like my help in doing this? Let me assist you. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
So there is this sense of belonging. There is this sense of camaraderie. Okay? So not because I chose you as the leader, it means I leave everything up to you. I have a role to play, even in a supporting role. You understand me?
Fair enough. What is the role of the church? You're an avid churchgoer. What should the role of the church be?
And that's where it is I'm so disappointed in the church, because and this, it get me really annoyed, right? All they're concerned about is the tithes and offering. And can I tell you, tithes and offering is a personal commitment between you and God, right? All they're worried about is building the big barn. Are they sowing? What are you going to put in the barn? You're not planting. What do you expect to reap? Okay? Now, for a shepherd, I'm not going to use the word pastor because that's just a name like any other thing. a shepherd that is in charge of a flock, right? Now it's the responsibility of the flock to take care of the shepherd.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, one member of the flock is missing, but the shepherd doesn't know because he says he has 99 left.
Mm-hmm.
And each one, sometimes when you look in churches, every Sunday you go, you don't see a capacity church. So there is this love for material things that's engulfing the church.
So wait a second, Ian, because we have to let's look at you're a philosopher, it seems, and you use a lot of analogy. So let's look at the one that you just mentioned. So that shepherd slash pastor, notice that his church is not full to capacity. His flock is missing, numbers from that say 99 or so. Again, we're coming right back to what should he be doing then? Is it still the individual?
If he had cared about
you said the flock cannot take care of the shepherd. That's what you're saying.
No, the flock take care of the shepherd. Out of the flock, the shepherd eats.
But you're saying, is it the shepherd taking care of the flock or the flock taking care of?
Watch this now. All right, let me expand on that. For a shepherd that is in charge of a flock, his only role and responsibility is to be in charge and take care of the flock.
Are you saying that's what is or what it should be? Is that
what it should be? What it should be. Because if a pastor that is in charge of a church, right? A pastor that is in charge of a church, if he has a 9-to-5 job, you get it? You follow me?
Yes.
If he has a 9-to-5 job, he's earning his salary somewhere else. Then he should not be eating from the offering plate.
So there should be more responsibilities from the members to do what?
It's a responsibility of the members to take care of the pastor, in the sense that you will, whatever Lord blesses you with, you recognize that there is somebody in charge, you will bring that forth. So out of that, which
right back into you, but this comes back right into that tithe and offering when you say there's too much emphasis.
Exactly. So it's so it is a personal commitment between you and God. So you don't need to come.
Translate that in layman terms for us to understand, and minus the analogy then, because we want to understand from you. You're talking about, so far it seems as if you're focusing on individual responsibility. That's what you're focusing on.
Yes, that's all that matters. Yes, individual responsibility. Yes.
And so the leader is there. We put this leader in charge. And we should not just sit and wait for this leader. We should each, as individual, rally around the leader to make things happen, to get things done, to create this consensus and a sense of belonging. So you're again here now. So we're left from, say, the larger community to an organization within the community, which is the church. So we're looking in the church and we're saying, okay, so the pastor is there. The pastor, in order to survive and live a life then, because we know in reality he has financial responsibilities, he has family obligations and so on. Wait. So let me summarize this so then you can take it. And then the flock in the church, the members in the church who are looking to this leader are just sitting there being passive and not helping the leader, knowing that the leader in turn is stretched, meaning he has his 9 to 5 job that he has to work in order to fulfill his responsibility. But here they are. Some of them are missing in action. Some of them, are not taking on their responsibility. So as a result, this again causes detachment and fail. They're not that personal connection that you talk about in terms of how they should demonstrate their support to the leader. You're saying they're not doing that in terms of that tithing and offering. So take it away from that.
Okay. Meaning that once we chose that leader, we have a role and responsibility to play to ensure that his personal needs are met. So I will say, okay, I'm working, the Lord has blessed me with a job or with an income. This is how I'm going to play my part, Lord. This is what I'm going to return to you so your servant can be taken care of. Because at the end of the day, the money will not go directly to God. We understand that part. Because it is established within the church that this is what the pastor earns from.
And so this will kind of free up that pastor to be more dedicated to the service.
Exactly.
And be able to keep track of that 99.
Exactly.
And not be so stretched because everybody now is playing their role.
Everybody now is playing their role.
Okay. Very.
That's where it comes in because at the end of the day, when we look, it is a process that is being abused and taken advantage of.
Okay.
Right? So the flock is supposed to take care of the shepherd. Right. But that process has been so abused where the taking care of is taken to a different level, and the very same flock that he's supposed to be responsible for, he has forgotten about them.
And now we come back again to that same question. So where does this responsibility lies in order to educate and to bring this awareness that in order to prevent this, this detachment, this kind of nonchalant, the process is being abused. Nobody, is taking care of me. And now everybody's looking out for themselves. So the community engagement is no longer there. The support behind the leader is no longer there. Where does the responsibility lies? Because you're just saying to me, somebody's abusing the process. It sounds like the leader is abusing the process.
Yeah, okay. Questions before we get to the answer. How did we get here? What is causing this? Remember, I said to you, the floor is being messy, the pipe is leaking. What do? Clean the mess or fix the pipe? What is it that is causing this abuse of the process?
So you tell me. You tell us.
How did we allow it to get here? Because persons, they're not collectively working together.
So here we go back to the individual within the group. Here we go
exactly. Back. So I, as an individual, I see what is taking place. What do I do about it? I say nothing. I have neglected my responsibility. So if I, as a member, sees what is going on, then I will let it be known in a respectful manner. There are forums which you could bring it to their attention because others may be seeing it and for some reason not saying anything because they don't hear anybody else saying anything.
But that takes, again, we'll come back to agency. We'll come back to being an initiator, someone who, again, because, you can't have a leader without followers and you can't have followers without having someone who is a leader. So again, we're going to have some leadership roles, I guess. It sounds to me, Ian, that there's a lot of passivity among the experiences that you've maybe observed or, where everybody's waiting on everybody else to do something and nothing is being done. But so far, with that insight, it appears to me as if you're not saying who should actually make the move, clean up the mess, and move it on. Everybody seems to be stuck in that puddle.
No, the puddle that we all stuck in is the mess. We're trying to clean the mess and don't realize that the pipe is still dripping.
Right.
So what we need to do is fix the pipe. And how do we fix the pipe? By choosing people, by fixing the people who we choose to lead.
It's a circular argument. A lot of it is going on. So let's see if we can fix it, and then we can move on a bit.
Mm-hmm.
When we choose leaders, let's look at it from a, say, a worldview standpoint. When we choose leaders, the hope is that this leader would have a greater insight, because as I said, let's take it for granted then that, or take it on the assumption that this leader appears to have the certain qualities, what the general qualities would be: someone who take risk, someone who will initiate, someone who can articulate, and so on. So they are chosen for those reasons and purposes. If that person now become passive in the role and simply do not know how to gather the masses in order to insurrect change, in order to make things happen, then it appears to me that this person should no longer be a leader, and a new leader should be selected. Because yes, there are individual responsibilities, but a fool cannot lead fools. Because if people will say, well, you know what, I choose you as my leader because I need the help, it doesn't mean that the individual is choosing have all the answers. They are hoping that the person who is leading will have the answers to help them. So it seems as if there's everybody's stuck in a rut in terms of this idea of service and community engagement and building consensus and empowering each other. The leader should be having that greater role. And I understand what you're saying. If the leader is overwhelmed with his own personal responsibilities and nobody seems to understand that, then how can he lead? Well, that is part of being a leader. It is part of it. And it's up for disagreement, I can understand. But let's ask another question. When you talk about the material aspects, where people tend to just be, seek out material wealth. And you use a biblical quote about, being a broken heart, a contrite heart, and a broken spirit. And my question to that is then, how do we free ourselves? Or what would be your message to individuals in your community or in your parish of being sober from the materialistic society that we live in?
All right, watch it. The picture that society paints to us or is showing us is that in order to be recognized, you have to go to a college, university, you have to own this and own that, you have to be eloquent in your speaking, you have to be dressing according to their standard, you have to be them and not you. Okay? And that's a heavy burden you place on the individual. Okay? Like I said, you can't ask a wire nail to use a wire nail to drive in a concrete. You're not going to get it work. Okay? So, you as an individual, everything comes back down to the individual. Right? Mm-hmm. Like I said earlier, you have to be honest to yourself before you could be honest to me and before you could be honest to God. Right? Now, who are you? Who are you? Answer yourself that question. Who am I? Okay, so when you define who you are, then nobody could place you in a box. Okay, but we have allowed society to place us in a box. In order to be recognized by society, you have to be a Dr. Brown and whatever. But we don't see the importance of the ordinary individual. Because if there wasn't this individual, there would be one less person in the world. And everybody who you looked at that same way, the world would be less than of those persons. So everybody has their own role in society. So you, the individual, has to identify who you are first. Don't let somebody tell you who you are. You will
All
have
right.
to identify.
So you said a lot, and it comes to the question then. You talk about society and how we're placed in categories or placed in these boxes and are restricted within these categories and boxes then. And so we become robotic in terms of, as you said, you get the degree and you dress this way and you do that. So our attitudes and our behaviors fall within what, society dictates, especially the popular aspects of society that kind of shape our beliefs and perception. A lot of us in society falls into that trap. Culture plays a large role into all of that. So let's make it a little easier and use Jamaica as an example then. And you're saying, what about the ordinary man? With all these titles and his suits and tie and does not speak so eloquently. Whatever happens to him? Why are we on the pursuit of materialistic things? Because we're listening to someone. So where should our guidance come from then? If not society, where should it come from?
Like I said, the first and foremost important thing in life is for you, the individual, to identify who you are.
So wait
Okay?
with that statement. And again, I'm getting your worldview that you're projecting here. You're still going back to this powerful individual as if people, let's go back to say even a child growing up in your community that you probably see from birth all the way up. How can he define self without the input of society and everything else, the parent role, the church role, the community? Even if it's not directly, it's indirectly. And if anything, the indirect aspect of it sometimes over the individual in such a way that that's what shifts them into those boxes. So how can an individual who doesn't have the resources to make any decision at all, except at the mercy of whosoever is, shuffling us into these boxes, how can you just develop that agency when you don't have the education, you don't have the understanding, you don't have the opportunity to get the education and the understanding? What are you left with, Ian? Is this, you have this powerful um, way that you want to teach individual to do things, but the tools are not available to them to make such decision, especially in a Jamaican society that have such barriers and limitations. And I'm not, there, it is everywhere. It is everywhere. But Jamaica is a developing country, and all its resources are not fully in place where people can have easy choices. So can you expand on that? Because you keep pushing this individual to make choices. Go ahead.
All right, watch this. You know, they had this thing that says once, never let anyone create your world for you because they're just created too small. Watch this. Growing up as a child, and you, as each day goes by, you observe and you look what is going on around you, and you see people doing different things, and you said, wow, everything you see, it's a wow for you. But somewhere along the line, you will have to ask yourself, is that what I'm supposed to be doing? As each day goes by, you will ask yourself that question. Okay. Like I said, it comes back. Watch this. A cow can never teach its calf to say meow.
Why not?
Because it's a cow. Cow go moo.
So what are you saying in relation to individual? Are you saying the parent? The parents can teach the children what? Where should they go for the teaching
You
then?
can
That's what we're
only
asking.
you can teach them to a particular level, but you, the individual, has to decide and determine for yourself. This is the level that I will allow you to take me. I will now need to identify myself, have a true identity of myself, because your inner strength, nobody can seize it. They only
Okay,
will see the action of it.
let's put a age on this individual because I think that's where. Okay, so let's accept your point of view then, and put an age on this individual where they become so empowered
Mhm.
despite what is happening around them that they can make conscious decision to not, okay, I can't afford it. So even though my boss is forcing me to dress this way, I can't afford it. So I'm just going to dress a certain way that allows me to pay my bills and live within, you know, a
A
certain
reasonable mean.
a reasonable means without killing myself and to
Mhm.
and over expose myself to this material world. What age are we
Mhm.
talking about? Where this I
It's
said,
hard it's hard to put a age or a limit on the age, because I said as each day goes by, you assesses your experience. Yeah, as each day goes by, you assess it. You do a self-examination. It's not something that you blurt out loud. It's something that you sit quietly and observe. You see, you're telling me, oh, I must be a doctor. Oh, you're telling me I need to be a carpenter. But where does my strength lies? You ask yourself that question. As I said, it's very important for you, the individual, because a lot of times we're thinking too collective and general.
so I'm still asking, where does the institution play a role? I mean, are these some would come through, say, curriculum-based learning where teachers.
Yes, yes, because it is very important. Schools need to start teach basically the things that shape life. You teach a child how to earn, how to work, how to understand, how to start a business, how to be a responsible citizen, how to pay his taxes, how to honor commitment, and all of that.
Okay.
You start teach a child from there. You don't wait until somebody reach 23, you're gonna teach them how to do business.
So now you're
That's
talking
23
it.
years of
Because
idleness.
at first it appears as if you're saying the individual should be taking it upon themselves to do this. I talk about the church's role. We talk about community engagements at the parish level, for example. So now we're looking more at that collaborative type of approach where, again, yes, it's kind of cement where everybody's involved. Yes, and then the individual is going to make, I guess, consciously then make the decision as to, or not aware that this is, what they need to do in order to uplift themselves then.
Mhm.
And instead of saying, okay, I'm working just to put my money to buy the most expensive clothing in order to keep up with the name brand, they
Mhm.
find a more reasonable way of living versus kind
Mhm.
of indulging in the materialistic world that they themselves can't even afford or even understand. Yes?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Because you know, I can keep on saying, we expect to use a general consensus to make decisions in life. And that's why we're so uncomfortable. That's why we're not satisfied with who we are. We seem scared to achieve anything because we don't know who we are.
You know,
We
yeah.
allow society to tell us who we are, and it's not true.
So
It
let's
is
look at
not true.
let's look at, say, the some of the things that are happening in Jamaica. Because yeah, I noticed you're talking about how easily swayed some individuals are in society and being bombarded by branding that is kind of distracting them. What do you think the government should do to kind of help people um, make sense of this self in order to get in informed decision making, finding their purpose, finding their purpose, and creating a platform for their purpose. Shouldn't that be some part of institutional role as well? Government, church, community?
Suppose I tell you just say the answer a while ago.
Okay.
And it is government creating that platform for me to be able to identify myself. Creating that platform, no free handout, no free nothing. Just create this platform. Now, for a child growing up, and they want to do business, they have identified their strength in entrepreneurship. What is the entrepreneurship? I want to make bags and sell it. It is so easy for me to get it done, to start it, to be a significant contributor to society, a developed society, right? So government create that platform where I can, it is as easy as me going to the shop to buy a pack of 3 sticks, or you get what I mean? I said, okay, I'm going to register my business. I'm going to the bank to open my account. I'm going to get a loan, and all of that facility must be there. Now, when you look on all the struggles and the difficulty in getting all of those established, then you start to feel a sense of detachment. Boy, I can't bother with this, I'm on this, too much trouble and all of that. So because there's not this aid,
or
you start to feel,
or a clear pathway
what
and
exactly
how to do it. Because as you said that the schools should be playing a role into kind of creating these visions and helping students by the time you exit have these vision and how they can map out their path without, what I'm learning is that some, students are even graduating from universities with degree and just sitting at home. And
exactly.
So, yeah.
Because society say you need to have a degree. A degree for what? You have the degree, but you don't have the experience.
So you're stuck because that's your
exactly. So how beneficial is that degree to you?
Let's look at something else that you said in relation to that. You said instead of asking government to do something for the poor, why don't we ask the poor to make better choices? Some people some people will never be able to change their status in life unless they change their attitudes. Their attitudes about the choices that they make.
Choices they make, yeah. All right. You know the worst thing about us? I'm speaking specifically to us Jamaican. The poorest thing about us is the choices we make. The poorest thing about us is the choices we make. We as individuals, we make choice to be what society says we are. Growing up, what do you want to do? What plans? What are your plans? How realistic are your plans? Okay? No. If you're 15 now and you said you have another 3 years in school, in another 15 years, where do you see yourself?
Some may not be able to answer that question, right?
Huh?
Some may not be able to answer that question.
Exactly. Now you growing up, see your parent, your mom, taking care of 5 of you by just doing domestic job. Okay, what are your plans? Do you want to be like your mom when you grow up? 5 kids and no father? Or you want to be like your friend at age 25 or age 40, driving a car for 5 million and paying rent for $20,000 per month?
Wow.
And then you're going to talk about government need to do something for you. Government don't need to do nothing for you. You need to do something for yourself. Where are your plans? Even if government give you $1 million, the next day he has to come and give you another $1 million because you have no plans for it.
Individual responsibility is
Exact, and that's all there is to life, individual responsibility.
yeah.
It doesn't really matter what they give you. You have a responsibility to yourself, to nobody else, to yourself first.
I
So
hear here I can feel the passion, and and you have some very deep insight and belief into the arguments that you're making. And of course, I don't need to validate it because there's a lot of validation there already, that individual responsibility is key. And you're not saying that government should not play a role. However, you're saying that people should make better choices and have change their
exactly,
attitude
exactly.
to make the changes about themselves. So we have about, I'm going to give you the last one because it's, we're winding down here. Very interesting stuff um, that you're sharing. Um, just from what you share, all the things that you're passionate about, what would be your takeaway from all the things that we talk about today? What is it that you'd want others to take away from all the things that they listen to you about?
Just look into yourself, identify who you are. That's all I want people to do. Just identify who you are. When you identify who you are, then it gives you a better perspective on life. That's all. I don't want you to do nothing else that I said, but just identify who you are. And you'll be surprised that the person who is a nurse find out that they're really is a carpenter, is a businesswoman, is something else, is a lawyer. Just identify who you are. Don't do the job because it pays a lot. No, don't do it. Do what makes you happy, do what you're comfortable with, and then the money will follow.
So finding the purpose, finding your
Find
purpose.
your find your purpose in life. Whatever the purpose is, find it. And then there is happiness. But there will never be no happiness until you find your purpose. Just take a minute. Just take a minute. Sit down and ask yourself the question, who am I? And everything you think that you are, write it on a piece of paper. Just write it on a piece of paper. And then you ask yourself, am I this? What is stopping me from being this? And then you take a separate piece of paper and everything that you think that you are, just write, what will others say? And at the bottom of that, you ask another question, how important it is what others say? How important is it?
That is
We
such,
can't allow others' opinion of us to be our reality. And that's what we're doing. Allowing people's opinion of us to be our reality. Someone say you're a crook, that's their opinion. That's not your reality. They say you're a thief. That's your opinion, not my reality. Just know who you are. Identify yourself. What's your purpose? And then we have a more successful life. That's all.
Ian, those are some powerful suggestion and advice to anyone that may watch this video, and such a very good piece of takeaway and a summary from what we've discussed. I truly enjoyed this conversation. You actually have me thinking too about, you have some interesting analogy. And I just wish that you're utilized a lot more in your community, because these deep conversations would be so important to have with youth. The question of who am I, and that would, the way that you kind of, you know, create these ideas of how to find this out would be a great little workshop to have with youth to make sense of it. And I hope we get to talk again. Thank you so much.
Definitely, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.